Welcome to the Marketing Lab, your go-to podcast for all marketing information. I'm your host, Tyler, and we'll cover different tips, tricks, and strategies to help level your marketing up, examine real-world case studies, and dissect all the marketing implications and how you can best use this information. And lastly, bring in industry professionals to share their knowledge along with entrepreneurs and discuss their marketing journeys in business. Now let's grab our lab coats up. Oh man, I messed that up. Now let's get our lab coats on and jump right in. So this is the episode that I was going to combine with last week's episode. If you haven't listened to that, I thought it was a really good episode on Bud Light, the marketing, and knowing your target audience. But we are going to separate these two because when I was going through it, I realized that that one had a lot of different marketing implications. And for this one, this is going to be another case study. And basically what this one is a different story on TikTok. And it's not really a marketing tactic, I guess you could say, but there is some good implications with it because you often hear any publicity is good publicity. And in this case, it might not be the case. So I'm just going to run through exactly what exactly happened, how, if any of this ever happens to you, what you can potentially do. And I did just come up with another potential example that I will use and how that person implemented it and it affected him in a good way. So what exactly I'm talking about here is Keith Lee. Keith Lee is very famous on TikTok. He has a little over 13 million followers on TikTok at the time of this recording. And what he does is he goes around to different small businesses, tries out their food, and he's amassed a really loyal following. And it's like the Keith Lee effect, they say, where whenever he goes somewhere, he says, oh, it's amazing customer service, food's amazing. The next day, you'll see a huge lineup to this business, and they just get overwhelmed with so many different people. I've heard of different stories where they aren't even able to serve the people, or there's lineups that take for hours. So he has a really big influence. And this one company, one restaurant, they were asking him to come out, try their food, and see what he thought. So they could obviously want the publicity from him. There's the Keith Lee effect. They think they have a really good product, and they want him to come out, promote their company. And it didn't exactly go the way that they really hoped for it to go. So with that being said, he always prefaces his videos and says, this is based off of my taste buds. My taste buds are going to be different from yours, and no taste buds are really going to be the same. So he has to build this loyal following. And through this loyal following, he is extremely honest with his answers and responses. So I guess you could take that for anything that you market or anything that you're doing. You have to be honest and transparent with it. So if he were, when I was coming up with this, I thought of Guy Fieri, or Fieri, however you pronounce his name. Whenever you watch his videos or his TV show, he says, oh, this is the bomb. Oh, this is out of this world. And he's got all these phrases. He never really ranks everything, but from what he always says, this is always great. So it's like, how are you building that trust with people if every single thing that you try is great and amazing? And I think that's another area how Dave Portnoy, if you've seen any of his pizza reviews, he tries to be as honest outside of a couple, I guess you could say, reviews. He tries to be as honest as possible and give honest feedback. And there's integrity with that where people can actually go and trust it, because if you're always saying, oh, this is a 10, this is a 10, this is a 10, and you lose a lot of credibility there. Whereas if you're going out, this is a 7.3, this is 7.8, this is 9.3, and you're varying your responses, and you're not actually saying the same thing over and over, you're actually being honest, there's going to be a different response from the people. And that's what Keith Lee does. He's extremely honest. He says exactly his feedback, exactly how his interaction went with the customer, with the employees working, how the food is, and he gives an exact breakdown of everything. And he's extremely honest with everything and gives constructive feedback if he does have any, if it's a lower score. I think even if it is a higher score, he does give constructive feedback for the people on or the restaurant owners on how they can improve and what he would like to see. But as he says, this is his taste buds, this is his preference, and this is just something that you can do. So it's up to the owner of that business to take that feedback, and it's whether they're going to take it positively or negatively influences their business. And that's the scenario that we have right here. Is the restaurant owner took it, I wouldn't say very negatively. They didn't have a great positive response towards Keith Lee's rating video. He gave him, I think, a 3 out of 10, and they didn't have a very good response, or he stitched it, and he wanted to give his backside of the story because there was conflicting arguments and saying this and that. And what ended up happening with this one is they took his response and kind of flipped it and said, we don't care about your response, we didn't even want you here. But then Keith has these videos showing that they did actually want him there, and there's just conflicting arguments there, and just how they presented themselves once they had the reaction, where there's two ways that they could have gone, actually three ways they could have gone about this. Is the way they went about it negatively, or they could have taken it positively, said, thanks, we appreciate you giving us the feedback and how we can improve. And if you actually look at what that would happen, is they would end up getting a lot more followers or a lot more notoriety. I don't know if that's a proper term, but they would end up getting a lot more support for people saying, oh, look at these guys, they're taking the feedback, the constructive criticism, and actually implementing it. Or the other way is just completely ignore it. But I think that's probably the second worst way that you could go about it. The worst way is taking it negatively, and that's kind of the way that they went about it. And the topic of this episode is any publicity good publicity? And there's an argument up for this, where the last episode that we talked about with Bud Light was getting a lot of free marketing. And what ended up happening, they got all this free marketing, but their stock ended up dropping $27 billion. And I can't see this restaurant's financials or how it ended up playing out. But what ended up happening is Keith gave them a rather poor score, and they responded negatively. And what happened is there's a lot of people from Keith's audience that this tapped into. So there's a lot of free marketing for them. And although there's so many people now that actually know of this business, there's a lot of people that know of this business for the wrong reasons now. They might never shop there. I saw some comments saying, oh, I saw this business and I wanted to try it out, but now after seeing the owner's response, I'm never going to be going there. So there's a couple different ways that you could have gone about this, where if you went about this positively and took that feedback, said, okay, we appreciate the feedback, gave a little stitch and shout out to Keith Lee saying, thanks for coming in. We're going to take this feedback. We're going to consider it and see what we're going to be able to do and try and best serve our customers that way. And what ended up happening, like, think about the different ways that would have gave off to the audience. So the audience would have been like, oh, these guys are cool. I'm going to give them a shot. Whereas when they said it negatively, they're tapping into this audience through Keith Lee, and now all these people who never heard of him now know of him, but they know of him for the wrong reason. And a lot of them are saying, I'm never going to go there, and I've thought about going there, I'm not going to go there. But then there's also the other people that say, oh, I love this place, and it's so sad to see this. But there's, as I said, there's this Keith Lee effect, where if you do really well and you say you have a great personality, or he shows the owner or whatever it might be, a lot of people tend to flock there and want to support that business. And that's really great. But when you take this bad publicity, it tends to hurt you probably more than it actually helps you, because you got all this free publicity. All of a sudden, now they know you for the wrong reason. So it's it's interesting to see how it's going to be playing out. We obviously can't see their financials. It's not like Bud Light where you can actually see the stock tanking, but it's interesting to see how they're actually going to be ended up playing out. And the other example that I did want to give is any publicity good publicity? And I think it all depends on your response. So if you ever do get in the news for, say, a bad reason, it depends on your response. And one person that I do want to point out is Logan Paul. A lot of people never really heard about Logan Paul until he had his little incident in the Chinese forest, and so many people heard about him. The news started covering this story and everyone started talking about him, and now there's probably millions of people that all of a sudden know who Logan Paul is but never knew of him before. And I think he realized how bad of a situation that he got himself into. He took some time to reflect and come up with a good response. I don't think he came up with like an apology and that type of video or anything like that, but I think he took some time to evaluate his life, and obviously his life changed through all of the events, like him leading up to where he got to. So it's learning to adapt and grow with maturity, and I think he ended up turning that negative into a very good positive, because he ended up, look at him now, he's got his Prime drinks that has a huge sponsorship. They actually just got a huge deal with, I believe, FC Barcelona, where they're now the official drink of that specific soccer club. And obviously that's huge, where he came from basically nothing and now he's got this deal with these soccer clubs. So where he had this unfortunate incident that happened, millions of people now all of a sudden know of him, because I know for me, I don't think I had ever heard of him before that situation, and I was just like, wow, this guy's kind of a douchebag because of the situation that he did. And it's all about the situation, or how you respond to the situation. There's the other scenario that I just thought of as well with Liver King, where he was always claiming that he was natural and he doesn't take steroids, and then all of a sudden it came out that he was taking steroids, performance enhancing drugs, and he came out with a video and it seemed rather scripted, where he doesn't really care or whatever it might be. And if you look at his videos now, he's lost a lot of that fame because of him lying in the past about him taking performance enhancing drugs, and him coming out with this video saying he apologizes, and it's like, it's too late now. And it just seemed really scripted and forced, where he had this whole elaborate setup. He got like professional lighting, and I don't think he had professional audio, just because it sounded like there was a lot of echo, I believe, in the video, but it just showed that it didn't really seem like it was authentic and it was him. And if you look at his videos now, I don't think he's performing as well as that he used to, but he is still trying to go out there and still have that positive impact on his community, because at the end of the day, that's what he did want to do, is have a positive impact on the people, promote a healthy living, maybe not necessarily healthy, just eating bull testicles or whatever he promoted, but he does want to get people out there, get people fit, and live a healthy lifestyle. So he does want to, in a sense, want to promote this healthy living. But the video and response video to him getting caught and this publicity coming up, a lot of people started probably hearing about Liver King that probably never heard of him, and then they saw this apology video. So it all depends on your response, and is any publicity good publicity? And I think what we can take away from this is it depends on your response. Because if you respond negatively, it's going to reflect you and your business poorly. People are going to have that sour taste to you and your business, and you're not really going to be able to potentially recover from it. But if you respond positively, you think about your actions and what you actually did, or why you're getting all this publicity, you really do want to act actively, not proactively. And you don't want to like wait to respond or do anything like this. You want to come out as quickly as possible. And I think you want to be authentic and actually deliver what you guys truly mean, and not just saying it. Your actions speak louder than words. So say with the example of Bud Light, if they came out right away and terminated this marketing executive and did all this stuff to try and undo it, their actions are going to be able to speak louder than what they were actually saying, because what they were saying, they were taking their time. They're like, we're trying to decide next action steps. And she ended up getting laid off and not fired, where what the best case scenario for them probably would have been is, okay, you're fired. We got to figure out how to fix this scenario. And then maybe it's all the executives coming out and coming up with some marketing campaign or video trying to show their actions and not just say they're going to do something, actually back it up with their actions. So I feel like that's a little bit what Logan did. I don't know exactly his story, but with this business owner and the Keith Lee effect, he talked a lot, maybe a little bit negatively, and it all depends on how you respond. So is all publicity good publicity? And I think in this scenario, it depends on your reaction. So you want to make sure that how you respond to this publicity is coinciding with what you actually want, and your actions will speak louder than words. So you want to make sure that you do want to take those action steps, and maybe it's doing the action steps first, and then when you're able to come out eventually and say, this is what we want to do and this is our direction that we're going, you've already taken those action steps. It's like, okay, we've fired this marketing executive, and then we're trying to do this, or we've done this X, Y, and Z. And if the executives or shareholders at Bud Light came out after they already did that, then they have that actual action steps, and it's not just talk. So it just depends on your response. And in certain scenarios, is all publicity good publicity? It might be. It just depends on your response. So think about your response. Actions speak louder than words. And that's all I have for this specific case study. So thanks for tuning in to the Marketing Lab. If you got value out of this episode, share it with your team, colleagues, friends, or anyone you think this will benefit. You can leave a review and let us know how we did. We'll take any feedback so we can create the #1 podcast out there and deliver the most value to you. If you would like to apply to be on our show and share your expertise, head on over to newframedigital.com/the-marketing-lab. And at the bottom of the page, you'll find a form to fill out. Remember, every entrepreneur needs a lab, and this is yours. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.